Hello, welcome back to an episode of That's Runnable. I am out here in Richmond Park, which is a park in probably Zone 5 of London. I thought it'd be a good idea to just come out and sit in and amongst nature. Just over the camera there, I'm looking at a deer, 2 deer actually, and you might be able to hear parakeets, crows, Chinooks, helicopters. That's what we're dealing with today. I just decided that it would be better to go outside, but you know when you commit to something and then you realise how much more of a task it is than you realised it was. So we've come out, we've found a spot. I say we, I'm on my own. I've got some notes here as well. Today's episode we're going to go through a bit of a personal recap of the year, a bit of housekeeping to start with. Around about this time last year, I did 3 life-changing lessons from 2024. So you can go back to that episode if you scroll all the way back. And I'm going to try and do a bit of a similar thing, basically. I've got 4 things I feel like I've learned from the year. And as we approach the end of the year, I don't know about you, but I tend to get quite reflective. And so that's what we're doing today. We're going to be going through 4 things that I feel like I've really learned this year. So I had pen and paper before this episode and I sat down and I just thought, what are 4 things I really think I've learned? And that's what we're going to go through. And then we'll look forward. We'll look forward to the year. If you're an avid That's Runnable listener, if you are a supporter of what I do, I hope you find this interesting. I always try and tell you that I appreciate your support. I really do. And so I want to bring you along for the ride. I want to let you in on what's happening, what my plans are, what you can expect from me, from That's Runnable over the course of the next year. And hopefully it's going to be a fun one to kind of just reflect on the year past. Can you hear those parakeets? There's a big population of parakeets here in London and a lot of them reside in Richmond Park. It may get to a point as well, I've sort of got a bit hot and flustered as I've got here. It may get to a point where I need to put another layer on. I've stripped off thinking, well, it's way warmer than I thought it was. Came in a big down jacket and a fleece and a woolly hat. Completely overestimated how cold it was. I've come from a fairly hot climate, so it's a weird adjustment. Okay, thanks for being here. You may be out on your run right now. Maybe you're running here in Richmond Park and listening to it. Imagine that. That would be a mad one. If you're listening to this in Richmond Park right now and you're listening on Spotify, drop a comment. You've got to do that. So, some housekeeping. To start off, I want to give a big thank you to the biggest sponsor and supporter of this podcast over the last year. This podcast is only a year and 2 months old. And in that time, we've managed to get out 68 episodes. This is episode 68. And we've had all sorts of episodes, from solo episodes to guest episodes to That's Notable episodes with Josh. And all throughout, Innovate has been supporting the podcast, and I cannot thank them enough. And I am extremely proud to have Innovate as a sponsor. Innovate is a British company founded in the Lake District, and they are masters of making outdoors gear, trail running gear, hiking gear, anything you need for the outdoors. And they also make great gym kit too. So I use Innovate for everything I do, whether it's in the gym, whether it's out running, whether it's hiking on the mountains. I will almost always have a piece of Innovate kit no matter what I'm doing outside, no matter what activity I'm doing. And it's just top-notch, good quality kit. If anyone asks me what sort of kit is like really good quality but it's not a ridiculous price point and it's just reasonable and fairly priced, I will guide them to Innovate. They are an amazing company. They have amazing products, from their shoes, which they were founded on creating amazing shoes with great grip, to their waterproof jackets, to their barefoot shoes for the gym, to their running shorts. Whatever it is, I'm always impressed by all of what Innovate has to offer. So I want to first tell you to go to their website. If you're listening to this and it's before Christmas and you need to buy some Christmas presents, go and get 15% off at innovate.com with the code Runnable. But I also want to thank them. I just want to thank them for being such great supporters of the podcast, for really backing what I'm doing. Ultimately, it's just me behind the scenes. It's me and Stefan. Stefan is helping with all sorts of content creation and stuff on Instagram as well. But it is just me. I'm dealing with all of the sponsorship. That's how we play the game here at That's Runnable. I'm trying to present to you brands I love in an honest way. And that is no more true than with Innovate. So thank you, Innovate, for sponsoring the podcast for all this time. And I look forward to our continued partnership together. If you want to support Innovate, but you also want to support That's Runnable, go and have a look at what they have to offer. Many people have even recorded in Q&As and said, I bought a pair of trail flies or something and the best shoes I've ever bought. So I promise you, you will be impressed. Go to innovate.com. Use the code Runnable for 15% off. Secondly, I want to just mention my coaching intake. If you haven't heard already, there is a monthly intake. Every month I take on a certain number of clients into the coaching hub. And of course, January is a big month. Everyone wants to get started, get going on their plans to make a big year of 2026. So that intake is now open. If you want to go check that out, information's in the show notes. Go and press the link. Drop me an email if you want at tommy@that'srunnable.com. If you go to my Instagram, there's plenty of story highlights on there and you can have a look at what the crack is. The purpose of the coaching hub is to help you establish a sustainable running practice that includes strength training. So if you are someone who is underconfident in the gym, you don't know what you're doing in the gym and you want to implement a good strength training program alongside your running, it's a great platform for that. It's also there to teach you as you go. The whole purpose is to learn as you train. There's a whole library of resources, a hub. That's why it's called the coaching hub. And so it really is a resource. It's all in an app. It's a program, running and strength training. It's a library of resources and it's access to me. It's me as your coach. So you can message me whenever you want and get some help with your training. So go to the show notes to check that out. And then final bit of housekeeping. I just want to say Tour du Mont Blanc. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you won't have heard about this. This is the first time I'm mentioning it on That's Runnable. Next year, I am going to be doing Tour de Mont Blanc with 13 other people, and one of those people might be you. If you're interested, if you want to do Tour de Mont Blanc, which is the famous 100-mile loop around Mont Blanc and is the inspiration for UTMB, it's a slightly different route because UTMB actually goes through some towns, I believe, but Tour de Mont Blanc doesn't bother with that. So it's a little bit more mountainous, and it's about 10,000 meters of elevation gain throughout the entire 100 miles, and it is, like 170 kilometers, and it is over the course of 6 days. We're going to be doing it from the 31st of August to the 7th of September. And what I'm talking about right now is an all-inclusive trip to do this with me. If that is of interest at all, there's another link in the show notes. Go check it out. Maybe yourself and your partner would love to join. Maybe you and a friend want to join in late summer and do Tour de Mont Blanc. It's not going to be a fast trail running experience. It's going to be nice and slow. We're going to be doing anywhere from about 25 to 30 kilometers a day and lots of stops, hut to hut. And it's just going to be good vibes, good camaraderie, good company. And I really hope and believe it'll be an amazing experience. So if you're interested at all in doing the Tour de Mont Blanc with me and 12 others, check the link, sign up there. Okay, I want to start by doing a bit of a catch-up. With me. I think it's really difficult to keep people updated if they care about my movements, my life and what I'm doing. So I'm going to do a bit of that This episode is a little bit about me, sort of trying to embrace that a little bit more. A lot of people want to know what the crack is, so I'm willing to share what I'm doing and draw the curtain a little bit on what I've been doing in my life and why I've been doing it. So a bit of a catch-up. This year has been a great one. This year's been incredible. I have to say it's been one of my best years ever. And I can feel rain. It might start raining. We'll just carry on. A few highlights. 100 miler. I reached my dream of doing a 100 miler. This is something that I will never forget. Devil's Gulch was an amazing experience. I did a few episodes on it, on the approach to it, and a recap of it. I tried to document as much as I could of that experience out in Washington State. It was so hot. It was so hard. It was about 33 hours of effort. Now, I don't want to tell you that I'm disappointed in that, but there is a massive part of me that knows I can do better on a 100-mile distance race. And so I've got this fire under my belly. I'm ready to do a better effort. I'm ready to execute a 100-miler better than I did at Devil's Gulch. However, all that being said, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the effort I put in and the fact that I've got to this point where I've done a 100-miler for years now. For years, I've been dreaming of doing 100 miles. And I think that quite often we see a lot of social media content about people doing 100-miler after 100-miler or even 200-miler after 300-miler. People like Andy Glaze doing loads of stuff, and even people I know who've ramped up from doing hardly even doing a sort of a marathon road race to suddenly doing ultra marathons and ticking off all of these races. And it might make you feel, sometimes it makes you feel a bit like you're not enough, like why can't I ramp up that quick? Why can't I go and do those things as easily as they can? Or maybe I'm not putting in as much effort. And I want to tell you that there is no shame in taking your time to build up to a dream, a lifelong dream. It's been my dream to do a 100-miler for about 6 years. And I've not rushed it. I've not rushed the process. And I am so glad that I haven't. I had a few setbacks, and you can go back to previous episodes on recaps of this and where I've pondered on these things. But I had a few setbacks over the years that stopped me from doing certain 100-milers. But we got there, and we did it in America. I had this dream to do a 100-miler in America, and my first 100-miler was in the States, Washington State, and it was beautiful. Running over the mountains with the view of Mount Rainier and getting over that humble finish line with not much of a fanfare. That's what I wanted. So I'm very proud of the 100-miler this year. I launched the coaching hub. This year launched That's Runnable's coaching hub. I'm extremely proud of the coaching hub. I can't tell you how much effort I've put into it so far. And just as time goes on, there will always be more resources in there. It will improve. It will be something that can facilitate more goals and more specific goals and reasons to be in there. I'm excited for the year ahead and how it's going to develop. But right now, I'm just exceptionally proud of where That's Runnable's coaching hub has landed. It started as just a hub of resources and has developed and changed platforms. We had a big migration process mid-year, which was effort. And it then turned into a more applicable programming resource and coaching resource that actually facilitates me coaching you. So you can come in there and actually be part of a community, have a whole library of resources, but also have that programmatically laid out for you. And I'm extremely proud of the coaching hub. So that was a huge moment for me when we launched this current iteration of That's Runnable's coaching. Thirdly, the podcast, what you're listening to right now, has grown to over 20,000 listeners. That is something to behold. I never really expected that this podcast would become what it is, if I'm being honest. The initial intention with this podcast was to just do some solo episodes, to do deep dives on coaching topics, somewhere to send my clients as a resource, something to accompany you in your running. And it is everything that I've just described. It is all of that, but it's become way more of a community and a precious thing for me. I really love this podcast. I can't really express how much I love doing this. Even this process of coming out here and just trying to be creative with this and coming out to an English park in the winter where the sun hasn't really risen and probably never will today, and just sitting here amongst the logs and talking to you, all of that stuff, and trying to be creative with it and trying to develop it. It really is precious, this podcast, to me, and it's become something I'm extremely proud of. If I ever bump into anyone on the streets and they know what I do, they know my work, and they say, I love the podcast, I am so unbelievably complimented and humbled by that. And so, as much as I love it when people say, I love your content, I love your social media, when someone says, I love the podcast, or I listen to the podcast, that means the world, because really, this is where I feel like I can be truly more myself, and I can kind of connect with you in a deeper way, a more intimate way. So to think that it's got to over 20,000 listeners across the platforms is something that I am extremely proud of, and I am very grateful for. So that's another highlight of the year. And then finally, the final sort of highlight that I have written down here of 2025 is that I started traveling. Lou and I have had this dream for many years now to, in our heads, move to Vietnam, in inverted commas. Now, we did go to Vietnam. That was where we went. And we are going to be returning there as well. But when we were there, we've sort of gone over there on sort of regular traveling visas. We've not, we're not staying there long term. So what that means is we're sort of having to do the odd visa run every month or so if we were to stay there. So initially we were like, let's do a visa run to Thailand. And then we just decided, why don't we just go to Thailand and stay there for a bit longer? And so we looked for some sort of hippie mountain town that suited what we wanted. And we found in North Thailand not only Chiang Mai, which was awesome for a few days, but Pai. And so we stayed after being in Hanoi. If you've been tracking movements with the podcast and all that sort of stuff, you'll know that we went to Hanoi. There were a lot of typhoons coming over. It was quite difficult to be calm and relaxed and get the training I wanted in Hanoi. So we were looking for somewhere to leave Hanoi and sort of be somewhere where we could work and play. And so we found Eco Park, which was sort of a strange kind of modern development that we went to. And then after we were in Eco Park for a month, we went to Thailand and we went to Pai, and we loved it there. We were in the mountains, we were in nature. It was very calm and peaceful, and probably will be going back. And then after some time in Thailand, we had a wedding in India, and so we went to New Delhi, and I have to say, New Delhi is something to behold. I learned a lot when we went to New Delhi. I've been to some places that are pretty poverty stricken. I've spent 6 months in Cajamarca, up in the northern regions of Peru, and volunteered there and worked with urban communities and rural communities out there, working on more sustainable farming practices and teaching kids English and teaching them various things, and having a bit of a free schooling system that we were setting up there for urban kids. We can get into that at another time. But I've seen a lot of poverty. I have lived in a township in South Africa for 3 months, working to set up sustainable waste practices and all sorts of other things. There was some poverty that I saw there for sure. I have never seen such confronting poverty than in New Delhi. That place is really difficult, I think, sometimes to be in, I would say. And my reflection whilst I was there and on leaving was just simply about how lucky we are here in the UK and probably most of the countries from which you're listening. We're extremely lucky. Many of us have guaranteed hot showers. Many of us have reliable Wi-Fi, iPhones in our pockets, drinkable tap water, functioning infrastructure, clean streets. In the UK, we have free healthcare. Many, many things I could list to be thankful for. And I myself in my life have a loving family, loving friends. I have all of the natural privileges that I was born into. I speak probably the most important language to speak in the world. Because my dad was in the military growing up, I am privately educated. I went to university. I have a degree. I have so much to be thankful for. And so much that I take for granted. And sometimes it is important to go to these places, and this is one of the beauties of traveling. Sometimes it's so important to go to these places, and it's such a privilege to be able to go to those places, to be able to go there and to leave, and to be given a new perspective. Another very important thing that I do not take for granted is just the purity of the air I breathe. New Delhi the air is heavy this time of year, and it's so polluted that I would say it's probably best you don't even try and run there, even if you could. But running there is not possible. And even I went to the gym once in Delhi, and even in the gym, I was on the treadmill and I could feel, the air pollution in my lungs. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that we can run. And you should also, as you run now, probably, as you're listening to this, you should feel grateful. You should feel grateful that you can run. It's not always easy to. Maybe it's this winter, it's dark, and maybe it's difficult for you to run. Maybe you don't feel safe running. Maybe there aren't too many safe routes. Maybe you don't have all that much space to run. Maybe you are focusing on all the things that make it difficult to run, but trust me, you have it easier than some. So be grateful for the fact you can. We then went to Goa from New Delhi. We had some cancellation of flights. There was a nationwide issue with flights in Delhi, so we were caught up in that. So we had 2 nights in Goa. It was nice to have a bit of respite from the chaos that is Delhi. And then we've come home, and here we are. So, 2025, what a year. 100-mile ticked off. 100-mile American race ticked off. Launched the coaching hub. The podcast has grown, and I now am able to work remotely, travel and be and work from wherever I want to, and I feel very lucky. Okay. I have 4 lessons. 4 lessons from the year that I think are invaluable. Perhaps. Well, maybe they're not. But you can be the judge of that. I hope this is valuable to you. I'm going to go through these 4, and I'm going to try my hardest not to spend too much time. I have a tendency, when you're doing a podcast like this and you're sort of just chatting away by yourself, it's very difficult to not just blabber on, which you might believe that I'm doing right now. But anyway, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna have some structure to this episode with 4 lessons. We'll call them lessons. 4 lessons from 2026. Are you ready? You ready for the first one? And I'll just read out what I've written down, and then I'll try to make sense of it with you. Number 1, embrace the messiness. Embrace the messiness. Last year when I did this, 3 life-changing lessons from 2024, you can go back to that episode, my first lesson from 2024 was letting go. And so this sort of follows on from that theme, but perhaps a different angle. And it is specifically to emphasize the messiness. Embrace the messiness. When I worked in a job, a 9 to 5, sometimes it would feel messy, of course, but for the most part, it was pretty well structured. I would get up, I would go and do almost the same things every day, and I was measured on the same things, and it was only messy if I wasn't in control, if I wasn't organized. When you become your own boss, when you start doing your own thing, things can feel pretty messy. And if I'm being honest, when I started doing my own thing, I as a control freak, I started trying to kind of do everything perfectly and write a list and go through it every day and have everything planned and organized. And there's value in that. There's value in having systems. And we at That's Runnable now have some systems. We have systems for all of the posting on Instagram, and we have systems for getting podcasts out, and there's long form video coming out soon, and all that sort of stuff. And there's more systems in place, and we need systems to scale. But it can sometimes it can sometimes feel like it's always messy. It can sometimes feel like it's always messy. Life can feel like that. Life can feel messy sometimes. And I think this year I've just learned to embrace it. To just embrace the fact that life sometimes will be messy and you won't have control of everything. Control, this idea of control. We want to feel in control. But I think as much as we can sometimes feel in control, even though we're probably not most of the time, we also need to embrace the fact that we're not, that it's going to be messy, that the universe, from the smallest possible nanoscale right to the grandest universe-sized scale, the grandest macro scale of everything is chaos. It is all chaos, and there is mess everywhere, and I am amongst some mess right now. There is no reason to try and control everything. So my lesson 1 from 2025 is to embrace the messiness. If you want to feel calm about things, yes, try and take control of things. Try and take action, but also embrace the fact that things will always feel a little bit messy, and that's okay. That's number 1. Embrace the messiness. Number 2. This one is probably the deepest of all of them, in the sense that I feel it most deeply. It was a profound experience I had that I have spoken about on the podcast before. I spoke about it a little bit with Josh on That's Notable episode, and I want to speak about it with you now. And that is, what I have written down is, number 2, hold your experiences close. Hold your experiences close. When I was in Slovenia this year doing an Ultra X, the second day I had an experience that I believe... I had an experience in Slovenia that was relatively life-changing. At least it changed my mind on things. I was absolutely spent. It was the second day. I was dragging in 4th place or something, and I stacked it on the side of a pretty gnarly drop. And had I dropped, I probably would have really hurt myself. I'm not sure if I would have died, but I certainly would have got a lot more hurt than I did. And so I stacked it because I was obviously tired and I was so spent, and it was a very, very hot day. It was about 36 degrees at the time. And a whole flush of adrenaline and anxiety and all these, and a physical flush of sweat came over me. And I got back and I finished the race. I finished that day, and it was an epic day. It was a day where I feel like I really learned a lot about myself, about ultra running, about what it means to go to the edge, quite literally. And I wanted to share it with everyone. I wanted everyone to know what I'd been through. I wanted everyone to feel what I had felt. I wanted everyone to get it. But no one did, really. No one really understood what I'd been through that day. And this frustrated me. I felt frustrated that people didn't quite get it. They weren't really there with me as I was telling the story. And then it occurred to me that that experience that I'd had in the mountains of Slovenia was precious because it was mine. Because it was impossible. It is impossible for other people to really understand, as I do, what it was like to go through it. And so even if I tried as hard as I could right now to try and to describe it to you, to step by step talk about what the experience was like, you would never get it like I get it. Because our experiences are valuable because they are ours, because they are our own experiences. So hold those experiences close. Sure, share them. If you feel there's some value that you can teach from them, share them. But you'll never truly be able to explain to other people what it was like. You'll never have them feel what you felt in that moment. So, be satisfied with that. Be content with that. Hold your experiences close. That's number 2. My third lesson of the year, which I feel has been a recurring lesson year on year for many years, but I think this year has actually been most profound in me, is quite simple and it's almost cliche. Number 3, third lesson from 2025 is slow down. Slow down. Not everything needs to be achieved now. You know, sometimes I forget to reflect on how well things are going, because it doesn't always feel like things are going. You know, if we reference back to lesson number 1 on the messiness of things, it feels like everything's all over the place. Right now, it feels like, in That's Runnable, because of recent travelling and stuff like that, it feels like things are a bit all over the place. And I said to Lou the other day, like, I just feel like I'm not really in control of everything. Like, I recognise I need to sort of embrace that, but it does feel a bit off at the moment. I feel like I need to establish control of things and sort of take the reins a bit more. And one of the reasons why I find I need to do that is I have all these goals, I have ambitions, I'm driven to achieve things, and that's all great. But the things I want to achieve, I want them now. I want them quickly. And you might be the same. You might be thinking to yourself, I want to run a sub 3 hour marathon. That's quite a common goal right now. There's probably people listening to this. You might be listening to this and thinking, I want to run a sub 3 hour marathon. And you want it now. You want it this year. You want it in the next block. That marathon you've booked in, I want it now. And that's fine, that's good. But sometimes there is value in things taking a little bit longer. Sometimes, actually, in order to show up appropriately, you need to feel what it feels like to slow down. Sometimes, to prevent yourself from burning out, from overdoing it, you need to slow down. You need to ease off. You need to go into neutral. You need to turn the engine off and glide. I really feel like I've learned that this year. I think it doesn't matter if I achieve what I want to achieve now, or if it happens in a year, or if it happens in 2 years or 5 years. Really what matters is whether I'm happy doing it. If I'm contributing more than I'm taking. And you know, sometimes it's easy to forget that it's all just here, right now. This might sound cheesy, it might sound like I'm trying to be impactful with the way I speak, but as I sit here, in this present moment, I am reminded that life is now. And that everything I want to achieve, everything I'm going to achieve in the next 20, 30 years, I would give it all away just to be back here in this very moment. And to appreciate that, sometimes you need to slow down. Everything's so fast. We need to achieve, get, go, wake up early, do everything fast, do everything efficiently, be productive. Sometimes you need to recognize that you can't do everything every day. Sometimes we need to recognize that life's better when we slow down. That's number 3. Okay, the fourth and final thing I feel like I've learned this year, and I'm going to put on my fleece now. I'll leave it off for continuity. It's not that cold. The fourth and final thing that I think I've learned this year is stay true to your thing. Stay true to your thing. Social media can be full of people in your space, in your niche, doing things that you're not currently focused on, that are wildly impressive. And maybe you're comparing yourself to them. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, should I be doing that? Should I be chasing a marathon PR? Should I be chasing a 10K PR? Should I be road running more? Maybe you have a certain idea of what other people think you should be doing. Maybe you think that it doesn't make sense to pursue your interest because it doesn't align with what other people are expecting you to do based on what you've shown them you do. My advice is stay true to your thing. The thing that makes you special. The thing that makes you you. The thing that makes you unique. Your edge is the fact that no one's interested in all the things that you're interested in. They might be interested in some, and that's why it works. But they're not all going to be interested in exactly what you're interested in. The thing that makes you unique is you. The thing that makes you unique is your authenticity. Stay true to your thing. Don't get distracted by other people's stuff. They do their thing. Celebrate them doing their thing. Stay true to your thing. Do your own thing. Don't get distracted by comparing yourself to others and thinking, should I be doing that? No. If it's not your thing, don't do it. Stay true to your thing. Be real about your thing. Because that's where the satisfaction is. That is truly where the satisfaction is. When you're real about your thing. I like philosophy. I like talking deeply about stuff that's not really that related to running. It's tenuous. I like writing in my journal, and I like using those journals for podcast episodes. I like writing Substacks that aren't really that to do with running, but I'm going to tenuously make a link to running because I know you guys are all runners. That's me. That's my thing. I like doing it. Am I going to always do that? No. Stay true to your thing. It's where most of the satisfaction comes. It doesn't matter if it does well or doesn't do well. Just put it out there. That's my final lesson of 2025. Stay true to your thing. Know who you are. Don't get distracted by other people and what they're doing. And do your thing. Okay. I am going to put my jacket on. Let's try and put the mic down. Okay. Sorry. Oh, that's better. Okay, I'll put my hat on as well. Sorry, this is a rubbish listening experience. I hope you're here with me. We're going to be looking forward. We're looking forward now. I don't have long. Oh no, I've got ages. Someone has a meeting with me at 1:30 and it's currently 10 to 1. I think it took me about half an hour to get here. Oh, alright. Okay, looking forward. I am excited, very excited. So excited for the year ahead. 2026, going to be a big one. Let's talk about the podcast. Given that you are the podcast audience, you're part of the audience, you're listening, and I appreciate that massively. I hope you've enjoyed this episode so far. I hope you've gained something from it. All I want for the podcast is for you to feel like every time you listen, you get something out of it. I want you to listen to the podcast and think, every time you finish an episode, I want you to think, I feel like I've gained something from that. I feel, even if it's just a perspective that you didn't have before. Or maybe it's a very practical lesson about your intervals session. Maybe it's a new philosophical insight on life. Well, we have lots of plans for the podcast. I currently have, I want to say, like 5 guests that I've reached out to and haven't managed to actually get an episode date in the diary. I mean, he said he will come on, so I'll say it now. We've got Andy Glaze coming on at some point, among many others. I'm extremely excited about Andy Glaze coming on because he's probably my favourite ultra runner. He's my favourite social media and online ultra running character. I'm saying it. I've made that clear. With the episode guests, I want to be clear that I don't want to be like laissez-faire about it. I want to really choose them wisely. So there are some people I've reached out to who I really respect them. I really respect them. And I'm not saying that hasn't been the case so far, but because it's been the case that I've really liked the people that I've spoken to so far. But I want to clarify, if you have listened to a guest episode, for example, and you've thought this feels a bit underwhelming, I will just say this: there was one episode that I didn't choose the guests; they came to me, and I thought what they were doing was a great thing, and so we chatted. But you know, when you're trying to curate a podcast, you want it to be really top quality, high quality, and over the years to come, I think it will only get better. And the guest episode piece is something that I'm adamant to try and not do a shit job of. Basically, I think that there's a lot of podcasts out there that are they just do guest episodes and they're pretty boring interviews, and I don't want to become that. I want this podcast to be unique and to be something you come to because it's different from every other guest episode podcast, guest interview sort of podcast. So I don't want to just sort of fall into the trap of just becoming like every other podcast. That's all I want to say on that. So I'm going to be doing my best to choose these guests wisely and carefully, and not just have guest episodes for the sake of guest episodes. There will be more high-value solo episodes. I really want to make sure that the solo episodes are not just second thoughts and just blabbering on and just getting it out for the sake of getting it out. I really want to do my best to think of high-value topics, things that things that I know you want to talk about. So whether that is from a listener question that's come in, or whether it's from, maybe it's a listener question in the format of an email, tommy@that'srunnable.com. If you want to drop me a line, ask a question, inspire me to do a whole episode on certain topics. I want to keep them high value. We are doing listener questions. There'll be more run biz. I've got hopefully someone from UTMB coming on to talk about some of their sustainable practices. That's an interesting topic to me, is how is UTMB, as they take over the European ultra running scene, as it seems, how are they ensuring that they look after the environments that they are doing races in? There'll be more That's Notable episodes with Josh, of course, and I want to give a shout out to Josh and the team over at Notes. They're launching some great running kit, and I just think their ethos and their brand and what they're about is everything I love about Josh, and I want to shout them out. So go check Notes out. Check out Josh Lynott at Josh Lynott on Instagram. You'll be able to find Notes. I haven't got the Notes handle off the top of my head, so sorry about that, Josh. So that's the podcast. More of the same, but better is the aim. Coaching. Of course, we have a subscription service at the moment, which is a membership to the Coaching Hub. That is me as your coach. It is a library of resources. It's a running and strength program. It is part of a community. I want to also be launching, I have plans to launch courses. So this would be sort of 10-week crash courses, single purchase kind of stuff. I also want to have like purchasable specific courses or pieces of content, exclusive materials for certain things, whether it be shin splints or getting started with running or all that sort of stuff. I want to give you more opportunity to support That's Runnable, but also gain value from the coaching materials. So we're really building out as much as we possibly can with the coaching. Events, exciting stuff happening with That's Runnable events. The first of which being announced now is Tour de Mont Blanc. I'm going to be doing Tour de Mont Blanc with Vagabond Trails. That is something that you are invited to. It's an all-inclusive trip around Mont Blanc. The Tour de Mont Blanc is going to be amazing. I spoke about it at the beginning of this episode. I really would love it if you checked it out. If you want to come, there's 13 spaces available, although actually there are fewer now. I think there's probably about 5 or 6 spaces available, so go check that out. So we are looking to do more events, and as That's Runnable matures, and as I become more grounded in where I am, maybe, I don't know, maybe not, we'll do more events. So we're looking at podcast, coaching, events, and then all of the content. More of the same. We're creating systems for the content, both on Instagram, and here on the podcast, and the newsletter, and obviously there's some YouTube stuff coming out from me as well. But I want to say one thing. I have an announcement. This is an exclusive. If you're still here, if you're listening, if you've faded out, if you have daydreamed on your run, maybe you've zoned out on my voice. Listen up. An exclusive announcement. Last year, I worked with a filmmaker to create a piece of art, film art, that I think, by all hope and accounts, is going to be my most epic piece of content that is coming out in my name, I guess, or in That's Runnable's name. I am not the creator of this content. I am the subject. I guess, of this content. And it's being created as we speak. It's in the final stages, and I want it to essentially tell a little bit more of a story of what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing in this strange life that we have. What is That's Runnable? What does it stand for? What do I stand for? Why am I so passionate about That's Runnable being an extension of my own ethos? And I guess it talks a little bit of my story, going back right to very difficult times in my life where running, I guess, saved me. And I've spoken a little bit about it on this podcast in the past, but I'm really excited for this short film. It is coming out in the new year, and I'm a little bit worried, if I'm being really honest, because it's difficult to put into words how it's going to be an amazing piece of film, and I just want it to reach the right people, I guess. And I haven't seen it yet, so I can't say how I feel about the film itself at the moment, but I obviously was very heavily involved in the filming of it, and it was fun to make, and I'm really excited to launch it. And that I think that's the one thing right now that I'm like most apprehensive about is this film. I haven't seen it. I'm so excited to see it. It is in production, and this is an exclusive announcement to you, my favourite listeners, that is coming, and I can't wait to offer that to you, and it'll be free. So there we are. YouTube, I've started doing more long form content, and obviously we put this podcast out on YouTube, but I've been doing my own content, so you can go find that on YouTube on my own personal account, and I hope you like it, and there'll be more of that to come. That's it. That's everything for the year ahead. This is a content and coaching game. That's what That's Runnable is about. But all of it really is truly just about trying to connect with you in the right way, and I'm trying to offer you not just like value so you can apply it to your training, but also my perspective and things that I feel like I learn along the way as I try really hard at this life and also at my running. And there are things that I just really value in life that I think are really helpful for people, and I want to help you with those things. I don't want it always to be too serious. I am inclined to be quite deep as a person, but the reality is it's not that deep, most of this stuff, and I want to also keep it quite light-hearted, so there we are. Lots coming. I appreciate you, my That's Runnable family, and I hope you have appreciated this episode. I hope you check out That's Runnable on Instagram. If you aren't following already, go check it out. If you're not following this podcast already, do follow. If you have not shared it with a mate, share it with a mate. But most importantly, run the runnable. Keep showing up for yourself. And I'll see you next time.